guys, Dr. Christy Ennis. If you ever wake up or go through your day and look like a Picasso painting, this video is for you. We're gonna work on shifting that hip and shifting that back so you're better aligned and feel better. Step one is correcting any shift to the side. So if you find you're like this with your shift happening, we want to correct that first before we go on to anything else, right? Shift happens, we're going to get out of shift. So if I am shifted this way, and this is an exaggeration usually, but believe it or not, I have seen it this bad before. You're going to get to the wall, and the side that is sticking out, we're going to start with that sticking out. You're going to take one hand on your hip, and then you're going to very gently place that hand on the hip and push that hip in towards the wall. So it's not my whole body. I'm just taking a very gentle push in. You only want to go to the point where it doesn't hurt. So it may just be a very small correction to start. As you go, you may be able to get into a bigger push. And then yes, maybe you are able to add a little bit more of that upper body. And then hopefully when you get away from the wall, you're a little bit more even that way. Can be anywhere from 10 to 15 reps. Next exercise is if one hip is higher than the other. Actually, we are going to work on the hip that's lower than the other. So if you take and find kind of the top of those hips, and you may need to do this one in a mirror unless you can look down and really see how obvious that is. But if you look in a mirror and you've got one finger like this, or one finger like this, then you know one hip is at least looking higher than the other. So if this is my low hip, this is really the one we're gonna work on, and I call this the sassy teenager, because this is kind of what it looks like. So we're starting with that low hip. You can hang on to something, and then you're really gonna think about shift it up. So I'm not bending or going into a squat, it's just drop, and then I'm thinking about lift that hip up. Whoop. So I'm hiking that hip. To either make this a little bit more challenging, or if this is tough to do to get that feel on the floor, you can actually take a step or even something like a phone book if you're old enough to know what a phone book is, and I will show you that next. Okay, sometimes this is a little bit easier just to get the feel for, but it's actually a little bit more challenging to do because you have to make those muscles work a little harder since you're having to pull up a little bit more. Same idea, lift and drop. So sometimes even if you add a little bit more drop, barely touching this foot, you even get a nice stretch on that opposite side. But same concept, and about 10 to 15, again, only on that side that's lower. All right, this next exercise is on your hands and knees. You can do this on a mat. You can do this right in bed too. Totally okay to do that if that feels better. So we were strengthening that gluteus medius before, which tends to be weak and causes that pelvis to shift. This next one is going to really open up those hips and stretch some of those back muscles that can be tight to lead to some of that shift. So I'm going to bring my knees out nice and wide, and this is all about your comfort. So stop when you feel like that's as far as you want to go. I tend to bring my feet together too. This already opens up that hip space. From here, I'm actually going to think about rocking myself forward a little, and I'm pressing those hips down. So this stretches out the hip rotators and those hip flexors, which get tight and pull on the spine. And then from here, we're going to press our butt back towards our heels. So stretching out some more of that spine. If it feels good, you can even tuck that tailbone under, and you'll get a bit of a different stretch here. Just like that. And you're just going to rock back and forth. Nice breathing under control as you do this. If you need a little bit more and you want to get more into kind of the quadratus part, if you bring your hands over, so I'm going to bring my right hand over to the right a little bit, and my left hand's going to go right on top. Oh, and then sit it down. You'll even get a stretch through your lats here too, right up and through here, which can make a difference in how that spine is moving and pulling too. And then it would look the same thing on that other side as well. And again, holding here for about 3 breaths on each side, and that middle one just going back and forth about 5 times. Similar position to that last one, but we're not going to bring our knees apart. We're going to stay nice and in line in that quadruped position. You want to think about gently pulling in that belly button. We're going to engage in through those abs and those deep back muscles and the hip muscles and hip mobility. So we're really going to pull and tug everything in alignment here. All right, so step one, you're going to bring that knee, keep it bent, and you're going to come right straight up. From here, you're going to bring it out to the side and around. back down. Notice as I'm doing this, I am not shifting and tilting, right? We want to keep that spine in the middle and work all that stuff around it. That's how we're going to pull things back to where we want them to be right now. If this is too much to do that full circle, even just starting here engages in those glutes, which tend to need a little help, and engages in those deep back muscles and abdominal muscles too. So you can tease it apart where you do this and then maybe just that little fire hydrant. And then when you feel comfortable, then you can go ahead and go right into that full circle. And if you have the coordination, you can go ahead and shift directions, about 5 on each side. For this last one, again, we're kind of working on everything here at the same time, just in a little bit of a different position. So one of this one or that one might feel better. You can either choose or do both if they feel like they're doing a little bit different, which they are. We're going to go with our feet about mat width or hip width apart, thinking about lifting those buns up as high as you can without arching through the rib cage or any other part of the spine, really engaging in through those glutes, opening up and stretching those hip flexors a little. And then as I come back down, I'm going to add a little movement to it. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to shift my hips and feet over to the side. So I'm getting some rotation through the spine, more of a hip flexor stretch and rotation stretch. And then I'm going to add a little arm sweep in here too to get this whole side. And you may find that you actually get a little bit of snap, crackle, pop. Ooh, I'm not sure what body part that was that time, but you may have snap, crackle, pop, oh my goodness, pop in a lot of different areas. And again, then switching to the other side, you can even add a little press down into that hip to get more into that hip flexor. And you're going to shoot for about 3 on each side.